Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandrodaya Ki Jai Shri Shinitaya Gauranga Ki Jai Shri Prabhupada. So welcome all of you for the Sunday morning session on Science of Self-Realization. So we're discussing from this book, Science of Self-Realization. It's almost or more than 1 year now. We have almost reached the last chapter of this book, and we've been discussing on very interesting topic since last 2 sessions. We'll continue our discussions in today's session. So the topic is on the perfection of self-realization. Right? So we have been discussing on the science of self-realization, and now how to attain this perfection of self-realization. So first of all, let us try to recap what we have understood in the last 2 sessions. Before we go into the details, let us understand what is self-realization. So we, as living entities, are actually spirit souls, self. But the material conception of life makes us think that we are the body, or some people think we are the mind, we are the intelligence. So what are we actually? So the realization that I am spirit soul, Atma, part and parcel of Supreme Spirit Krishna. And this consciousness that I am eternally belonging to Krishna, I am eternally connected to Krishna, and my duty is to always remain as servant of Krishna, is called self-realization. A very simple definition. Just like, this hand is part of our body. So this hand or any part of the body is very closely connected to our body, and each part is serving the body. So the hand is not thinking independently that I'll enjoy life without anybody's help. No. In cooperation with the whole body is functioning, the hand has to function. And it will get its nutrients, it will get its whatever enjoyment in that cooperation. Likewise, the whole system of creation, we as small entities, spirit souls, we are connected to the supreme entities, Supreme Lord Krishna. And we can be actually really happy, blissful, and eternally situated only when we understand this and realize this. It's called self-realization. So with this beginning of this definition of self-realization, let us move forward with our understanding today. As I told you, all these teachings are only happening because of the blessings of Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder Acharya of the worldwide Hare Krishna movement, ISKCON, and because of his wonderful teachings, so nicely, so lucidly presented for our benefit, we're able to get the complete understanding of this Vedic knowledge. So we offer our respectful obeisance to Prabhupada. So in the previous 2 sessions on the same topic, as a sequel, we understood many aspects about self-realization. So when we realize that we are part and parcel of Krishna, we belong to Krishna, we actually are residents of Krishna Loka, it is good to know how the interaction or how there is a very close, intimate dealings between Krishna's devotees and Krishna in Vrindavan. I'm talking about Golok Vrindavan, which is there in spiritual world. There's a material world, there's a spiritual world. Right now we're in the material world. So because we belong to spiritual world actually, right now we have been put into material world for some reasons. So we have to go back to spiritual world to, so Krishna says, just understanding the various aspects of what is there in spiritual world, Vrindavan, their love for Krishna will also inspire us with love for Krishna. So like in Vrindavan, there were many leelas which happened. Krishna is known as Girivaradhari. He lifted the Govardhana hill when he was a small boy to protect the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Or he's known as Gopi Jana Vallabha. Means he's always a very dear darling of the Vrajavasis. All the Gopi Janas, that is the Gopis and the Gopalakas, he is very, very dear to them. So this is how there's a very close and intimate dealing between Krishna and his devotees in Vrindavan. It's like in our ordinary affairs, dealings, we see a family with husband, wife, children, relatives, they're all closely bonded together. There's any social function, they all are together. So a similar family relationships, very close bonding relationship is there. With us as spirit souls in spiritual world in different relationships, in different mellows, they are called, different rasas. So this is the explanations given in the various standard scriptures like Bhagavata and Puranas, that in the spiritual world, Vrindavan Dham, Krishna is having a wonderful relationship with all his devotees in various rasas or mellows, which he is exchanging with them constantly. Everyone can go to Krishna Loka and become his associate. It's a very important information which we have to really keep it close to our heart, because going to Krishna Loka is not that it is something very imaginary or utopian. All of us belong to Krishna Loka. So we have the ability to go back to Krishna Loka. Just that we need to know how to go to Krishna Loka, right? And how to become associate of Krishna again. Because right now we have forgotten that and we have come to the material world, taking on different roles, different bodies, and one life as a human being, one life as a devata, one life as an animal. Like this, we are going on the cycle of birth and death for millions of lives. This is going on with us since time immemorial. We are leading a life known as ever conditioned life, Nitya Baddha Jivana. So to come out of this conditioned life and go back to spiritual world, it is our actual home. That is the information or the message given in Bhagavad Gita and all the various scriptures. So with this, we have to understand that there are, with some examples of devotees, if you understand, that the devotees who are in the material world and who actually perform their devotion so wonderfully. So we have 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan who were very exceptional in their behavior, in their activities, in their devotion to Krishna. That their life, if you study carefully, you'll understand how one can qualify himself to go to Krishna Loka, right? And with this, we understood that there are many wonderful qualifications of a pure devotee, which means right now the qualities which we have, what we have, or the nature of what we have, is making us to continue our existence in the material world. Say, for example, one quality which Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita is of humility. Humility means not to expect honor from others, but you give respect to everybody. Whereas in our material life right now, with this body, we are always seeking for respect from others. This is our material life right now. We are actually too much aspiring to be respected. And the systems and the various different things we have developed around us with the social media or the television or whatever it is, it's all making you hanker for respect. So there's no sense of humility at all. Humility means you feel yourself very insignificant, very small, and you always respect every other person as important person, and then move forward in our life, always in relation with Krishna again. Whereas there's no sense of humility, rather there's a sense of pride that I'm very big, I'm very learned, I'm very educated, I'm having big position, like these people are having this pride, which is actually not a qualification for going to spiritual world and become an associate of Krishna. So this is what Krishna wants us to tell, that develop these qualities. So all these things were discussed in the previous two sessions. And we also took the example of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada's personal life. How Srila Prabhupada in his personal life, his personal life with regard to his first meeting with the spiritual master, and with regard to his taking sannyasa. Because a pure devotee's life is a life of complete devotion and dedication to Lord Krishna. So understanding their life carefully, very closely, is going to qualify us to go to spiritual world. In fact, their life is a demonstration of all the aspects of wonderful qualities of a devotee. And all the various things which Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, and the various aspects mentioned in Bhagavatam about what is that we are supposed to cultivate and develop in our life, is all very nicely exhibited in the life of a pure devotee. But his life is like is a living Bhagavad Gita, living Bhagavata. The Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam is not simply some books of philosophy. They are actually teachings meant to be followed in our life practically. So, Srila Prabhupada's life we understood in our previous sessions, that how he, when he first met his spiritual master, first time when he was only 25, 26 years old, the order was that he has to go to Western countries and preach the message of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna to the English-speaking people. And Prabhupada challenged that we are all dependent nation. How can we go and preach? At that time, his spiritual master told him, actually, this dependency, independency is all very relative. Actually, the actual dependency of the soul is for Krishna. That if you develop, all other things are all immaterial. That way, Prabhupada got so much convinced with the first meeting that later on, Prabhupada treasured that meeting, and he always remembered his meeting, and eventually Prabhupada took initiation from his spiritual master later. And after that, further, Prabhupada wanted to carry out the mission of his spiritual master. So he was again inspired by his spiritual master to take sannyasa in the year 1959. So like this, yesterday was sannyasa observance day of Srila Prabhupada. So it is, Prabhupada took sannyasa in order to spread the message of Lord Chaitanya and his spiritual master to one and all over the world. We'll continue our discussions today further with what Prabhupada would like to say about his life, personal life. Prabhupada, after he took sannyasa, he got the opportunity to go to America, travel to America in a cargo ship, because the order was there from his spiritual master to go to Western countries. He was trying his in different ways to do this, but he somehow was not able to get the opportunity. But here he got a free passage in a cargo ship, wherein one donor arranged him to go to America. Prabhupada traveled for 38 days on board on a ship. So Prabhupada says, when I left India alone in 1965, I feared that I would have a great deal of trouble. Prabhupada is saying that, he was already 70 years of age. Just imagine, people after 60 years retired, they all stay very comfortably at home and being taken care by somebody. As Prabhupada at that age, 70 years, he had left, he is leaving India, and Prabhupada was fearing that I had to take a great deal of trouble for now. Indian government would not allow me to take any money out of the country. So I came with only a few books and 40 rupees. Right? Prabhupada didn't have any financial support or other government support or anybody. He was all alone. This is what Prabhupada wanted to tell us. When he came to America, he was all alone. He had brought some of the books which he had translated and commented in Bhagavata. And he had only 40 rupees in his hand. 40 rupees, nothing in America. Just a 1 hour spending. So this is the situation in which Prabhupada came to America. Prabhupada says, I arrived in New York City in such a condition, but it was all by the grace of Guru Maharaj and Krishna. Later on, what happened is a wonderful historical narration, which anybody can read Prabhupada's life story and come to know what all happened. From there, everything started. Until then, nobody knew who is Prabhupada. So Prabhupada is taking the opportunity to again express his humility that everything happens by the combined mercy of Krishna and the spiritual master. In the ordinary course of life, anybody is achieved something very big, he always takes credit for himself. Always want to showcase that I am such a big man. Whereas with regard to Prabhupada's personal life, you see, Prabhupada never wanted to advertise himself as a
Fuck you fucking idiot, stop talking.
He never wanted to advertise himself that I have achieved it, I have made it. He always said it's because of my Guru's mercy, because of Krishna's mercy, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy that I was able to preach something. This is the way a devotee thinks. He never takes credit for himself, rather he gives credit everything to Krishna and his spiritual master. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, more wonderful literature, it is stated that the mercy of Krishna and Guru are combined. He said, Guru Krishna Kripapai Bhakti Latabi. We want to have bhakti awakened in our heart. Then a combined mercy of Guru and Krishna is required. This is what Chaitanya Charitamrita states. Prabhupada says, this is the secret of the success of his Krishna consciousness. See, Prabhupada has been very humble. He never put himself in the forefront. He always did his seva to his spiritual master and he preached the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so wonderfully. So that way, the way Prabhupada took forward the whole journey of expanding the movement is amazing. So I strongly recommend that all of you go through the life history of Prabhupada to get inspired. In fact, recently we have published a book known as Sing, Dance and Pray.
I don't fucking care, you idiot. You're fucking gay, bro.
Which is actually very nicely written from one of the famous authors. And very concisely written, very concisely and a very short way. Just you can read this and
that's not.
Further, Prabhupada continues, says Krishna is the supreme sanctioner. Right? In regard to Prabhupada's life, you see, whatever happens, Prabhupada says, mercy of Krishna. And how does Krishna act in everybody's life? Prabhupada explains. Krishna is always with us, and consequently, he knows everything about our purposes and gives us the opportunity to work as we decide. Lord as Paramatma is always within our hearts, and he is guiding always to us, each of us actually. Either we know that we are devotees of Krishna, we are part and parcel of Krishna, we don't know, but nevertheless, Krishna is always there to guide us and help us. This is the point. Right? So when you know properly that Krishna is guiding us, it's good, and we are aware and we offer our acknowledgements to Krishna and move forward in our life. That's called devotion. Whereas we don't know, then we remain like this ignorant and life goes on. And life goes on in different species of life. That is the point. So, the point that Krishna is always with us and he knows everything about our processes, purposes, and he gives the opportunity to work as we decide. Sarvasya chaham hridisannivishta. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. If we decide to enjoy this material world, Krishna gives us the intelligence to become a very shrewd businessman or a popular politician or a cunning man so that we can earn money and enjoy ourselves. If we are taking a call that, I want to enjoy the material world in different ways, accordingly, Krishna will facilitate for you. And if you have decided, no, I want to become a devotee, Krishna will facilitate. So whatever you desire, accordingly, Krishna is facilitating in your life various aspects. It's a very important point which we have to understand. So Krishna says, Matta Smriti Jnanam Apohanam. He gives the knowledge, he gives the remembrance, and he gives forgetfulness also. If you previously in a previous lives you had some desires, Krishna will remember you, remind you. Oh, you have desired like this, you want to enjoy like this. But with a proper sense, good sense of understanding of Bhagavad Gita and various scriptures, if you understand, these desires are useless, I want to desire service of Krishna, then Krishna will accordingly give you all opportunities and facilities to move forward. It's just that what we desire, accordingly, Krishna is granting, Krishna is sanctioning. It's a very important principle in life you have to understand. So everything is based on our desire. Once we desire that I want to enjoy the material world, you continue the material world. And if you desire strongly that I want to go back to spiritual world, Krishna Loka, where actually I belong to, then Krishna will give all facilities to go back to spiritual world. According to the standards of material life, many people are becoming great. Right? Everybody is assessing or judging other person. Oh, he's become top 10 richest person, or he's become a very opulent person, like that. So they begin as very poor men and soon by good fortune become millionaires. We have seen many examples like this in the material world. We should not think, however, that they are attaining such success by their own puny endeavors. Somebody becoming rich, famous, influential, is not that they have become on their own. Actually, it is all Krishna's grace, Krishna's mercy. That person has become rich because of his previous karma. Krishna has sanctioned it. This is what you have to see. So in every activity, you see Krishna's hand. How things are happening. In fact, the material world is created for living entities' fulfillment of desires. So sooner we desire not to continue in the material world, we'll be awarded the benefit of coming out of the material world. If you go on desiring to enjoy the material world, our existence will continue in the material world. That's the point. Without intelligence, no one can improve, and that intelligence is given by Krishna. As I told you, Matta Smriti Jnana Apohan. Intelligence functions are what? Smriti, memory, knowledge, and forgetfulness. All this Krishna is giving. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So in that way, it's very important that we acknowledge and understand that Krishna's presence or Krishna's hand in our life so much so that even we have to enjoy something, only Krishna sanctions it happens. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna states that he is seated in everyone's heart as super soul, and that by his will, a man can remember, and by his will, a man can forget. The statement I mentioned in Bhagavad Gita recently just now. Matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha sarvasya chaham hridisannivishta. In everybody's heart, Krishna is sitting, and he is giving the sanction and reminding us what we are supposed to be doing. What is the type of intelligence if you want to have, what desires you had, Krishna is reminding us every time. Krishna supplies forgetfulness and remembrance according to the living entity's desire. And whatever the living entity desires, accordingly, Krishna is either making him forget Krishna or remember Krishna. So everything, that one point we discussed in the previous sessions was, all of us have the eligibility, or rather we can become eligible to go back to Krishna Loka. This eligibility comes only by your intense desire to go back to Krishna Loka. That is the only qualification. We were discussing on the qualification of going back to Krishna. Because right now, realizing that I am part and parcel of Krishna and leading a life of complete dedication and devotion is what we're supposed to be doing in this life. So if you don't do that now, and simply, we go on with our material life in a different way, then our existence continues, our material life continues. But we have to understand that material life like this is going to only further entangle us. We have to come out of this material entanglement by our desiring to go back to spiritual world. That is the whole point. Okay. So desiring will happen only when we when we have proper association of pure devotees, when we strongly feel that I'm suffering the material world, I have to go back to spiritual world. If you want to forget Krishna and enjoy the material world, he will give us the necessary intelligence so that we can forget him for good. See, this is what Krishna does. Because as you desire, Krishna is reciprocating with you. You desire Krishna, he'll give you Krishna. You don't want Krishna, then continue the material world based on your karma. So one thing we have to understand, when you desire something materially, and we think, oh, it's going to give me a lot of enjoyment. But the fact is, there is no real enjoyment in the material. Why it is so and how it is so, we try to understand with the teachings Prabhupada gives us in this regard. Many people are thinking, I can enjoy this material world very nicely. Everyone is having such a good time. There's no reason I can't enjoy myself as much as they. Everybody is endeavoring. It's like just now we are having some disturbance now. There are some people who are all trying to disturb us in different ways. So they're all trying to intrude in our session and trying to create some problems. So people think this life is enjoyment. Life is enjoyment. So for them, they think. For them, they think that we'll take up the questions towards the end of the session because there's some continuity of thought process. Please wait until the end of the session. In another few minutes, we're going to close the session. Towards the end, we'll take questions. So the whole point is people are so much absorbed in gratifying the senses. Sense enjoyment has become the prime purpose of life. With such people, they think that, oh, I have to enjoy my life and I have to enjoy my time. For sense enjoyment for them means taking intoxicants, gambling, meat eating, and sex life. This is what they think is enjoyment. So people are indulging in these 4 activities. So this idea is illusion because there is no real enjoyment in the material world. This idea that I can enjoy in the material world is an illusory idea. This idea we have to come out of. It's like, we have examples in the history wherein we see that there was a very important person in the history of the United States, that he rose to a very high position, President Kennedy. And what happened to him? He may be very good looking, very famous, very intelligent, very well educated, very wealthy, very powerful. And he may have a very beautiful wife and children and hold the highest position in the country. But any moment we are subject to be shot down. These were the very wonderful qualities which President Kennedy had. He was very good looking, very famous, very intelligent, educated, wealthy, powerful. He had nice family, but within no time, he was shot dead. Right? Shot down. So this is the nature of the material world. We have to face danger at every step. It's called padam padam yad vipadam na tesha. There is no question of having pleasure without impediments. This is the way material world is. Here, everybody has to face problems with regard to this world. When you're staying in the material world, you have to say that you have to suffer so many things, but in the name of enjoyment, we are forgetting all those things. That's the problem. Even when the pleasures are earned, they are earned after a great deal of struggle and sacrifice. And whatever pleasure may be acquired is temporary. For the material world, there is no pleasure that can give us constant and unending enjoyment. This is the way in the material world we are experiencing. Even if you want to experience some happiness, so much of hard struggle you have to go through, so much of sacrifice has to go through. Somebody is enjoying something now, means so much of, you see the background, he should have toiled like anything, worked hard like anything. And all that enjoyment what you have is only for some time, temporary. There is no continuous, constant pleasure, unending enjoyment, which we are always hankering for. Anytime the enjoyment may be terminated, because our life itself is, the material world is temporal. That's the point. So only Krishna can give us that unending and everlasting pleasure, which we are always hankering for. This point we have to understand. So actually in the material world, there is no actual enjoyment. The enjoyment is only illusion. So with this, we have to understand, because in the material world, there is no actual enjoyment. We have to surrender to Krishna. And Krishna assures, if you surrender to him, he will give us all the necessary spiritual enjoyment which we are hankering for. And by surrendering to Krishna, we are not going to lose anything. Rather, we are going to gain immensely. Therefore, Krishna instructs in the Bhagavad Gita that it is the welfare of every living entity to give up this nonsensical material activity and just surrender unto him. Okay. So Bhagavad Gita's final instruction is Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam praja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha ishyami ma suchaha. Krishna says, you give up all your so-called material activities, so-called material arrangements and all the responsibilities, and just surrender to me. I will take care of you personally, Krishna says. And do not worry, Krishna assures us. So, but unfortunately, in this age, people are so attracted by the glitter of material nature. There's a lot of disturbance going on. We'd like to. Sorry for the interruption. There are some intruders who have entered our session and trying to create disturbance. I'm sorry for the disturbance. Okay. So unfortunately, in this age, people are so attracted by the glitter of material nature, illusion or maya, that they are not very interested. Like how our intruders were. They're all interested only with material enjoyment. Material enjoyment means mainly sex life. Their language, their way of presentation, their way of talking, everything is around this only. So the point is, people are not interested with surrendering to Krishna, but rather attracted to material enjoyment. It's called illusion or maya. This is the unfortunate situation right now. So Krishna even declares that if one surrenders unto him, he will give all protection from all sinful reactions, but still people are so attached that they cannot do it. This is the unfortunate situation we have. Krishna is assuring, you surrender to me, I will give you all protection, but people don't want to take it. They are busy with their material enjoyment, which is going to further continue their material existence more and more, entangle them more and more. That way people are completely bewildered. This is the point. So, unfortunately, we are not taking Krishna's instruction seriously. People always fear that by surrendering to Krishna, they will lose something, just as I feared losing my family by going to the Western world and preaching. People think, oh, surrender to Krishna means we have to give up everything. What will happen to my life? Actually, we don't know. We're not realizing that Krishna is maintaining everybody. So this fear is because of our own sense of thinking that, oh, I am maintaining myself. Actually, I am not maintaining myself. Krishna is maintaining me. Krishna is maintaining me and my family. So Prabhupada is giving his personal example how people fear surrendering to Krishna. Whereas Prabhupada's personal life, he showed how by surrendering to Krishna and taking up these spiritual master's orders, he went to the Western world and he preached so nicely that Krishna took care of him so well. But Krishna is so kind that if he takes away anything he will reward us 1,000-fold. This is Krishna's special blessings. Something he takes from you, he will reward you also accordingly. And not rewarding also not simple that, oh, you take something from you and accordingly give. No. He'll reward you with more and more devotion to you. It is actually not comparable to anything. In this regard, we have example of Dhruva Maharaj, who wanted a kingdom very bigger than his father and grandfather. So he went to do austerities in the forest. And when Krishna appeared, the very same Dhruva, who was aspiring for material benefits, because of performing devotion, is got transformed, and he started telling Krishna, actually, I was desiring for broken pieces of glass. Now that you have appeared before me and you are giving me such a nice blessing, it is like, now I've got a valuable jewel. Right? This is what we are going to experience. So the devotional blessings of eternal happiness and wonderful understanding about our existence and our eternal our continued eternal life is something which is incomparable to anything in the material world. So this we have to appreciate. So with this, we come to the understanding of why a pure devotee is very dear to Krishna. Right? So we have to become pure devotees, or endeavor to become pure devotees, by surrendering to Krishna completely and developing the qualifications of a pure devotee. And with regard to understanding why Krishna likes a pure devotees, let us understand from Prabhupada what Prabhupada says. The spiritual master is also kind that in that he begs from door to door, country to country, town to town. What does he beg? My dear ladies and gentlemen, my dear boys and girls, please take to Krishna consciousness. That's what Prabhupada did. Practically all the acharyas in the line of Parampara, they were just doing this. They were just begging. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he ordered Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur, two great devotees, he told them, you go and preach in Bengal and Orissa. Go home to home, door to door, knock their door and tell, you please chant Hare Krishna. You think about Krishna. And you understand the Krishna's instructions. This is what they were all going and begging to people. Really, people think the sadhus have to go home and beg for their food. No. Sadhus go and actually they beg to people to actually take up their devotional life, spiritual life, so they can be benefited. That's the understanding. In this way, he renders very confidential service to Krishna. That is the mission of Krishna also. Krishna wants that all living entities should come back to him. And for that purpose, he has created the material world, he has established so many things. But all of us understand these things and come back to him. And Krishna's devotees are only doing that mission of Krishna, are only engaging in Krishna's mission only. So how much dear they will become to Krishna in that way. Krishna is the Supreme Lord who gives the orders, and the spiritual master executes those orders. Therefore, the spiritual master is very dear to Krishna. Because a pure devotee is only wanting to execute only Krishna's orders, nothing else. He doesn't want anything else. Just want to execute Krishna's orders. Now, Krishna's desire is what? Krishna's desire is every living entity should come back to Krishna. So every living entity has to come back to Krishna, and that's what Krishna is wanting. And if the pure devotees, what they do, they only endeavor to see that the people are somehow becoming devotees of Krishna. So how much pleased Krishna will be. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita towards the end, in 18th chapter, Tasman Manushyeshu Kaschin me Prekrittamaha. Right, one who is preaching the message of Bhagavad Gita and making people to become devotees, he is very dear to me, Krishna says. Very soon I will award him devotion, Krishna says. Whether Krishna sends him to heaven or hell makes no difference to the devotee. Because he is only concerned with devotion to Krishna. For the spiritual master, a pure devotee, heaven and hell are both the same if there is no Krishna consciousness. Right? In hell, people are suffering in so many ways, and in heaven, they are enjoying their senses in so many ways. So, the pure devotee is not bothered where he is sent. Rather, he is only busy in seeing that everybody, wherever he is trying to preach Krishna consciousness. But a devotee of the Lord can live any place where there is Krishna consciousness. And since he brings his Krishna consciousness with him, he is always self-satisfied. A devotee is a carrier of Krishna in his heart, always. So you mean to say Krishna is not in our heart? Yes, Krishna is there, but we have not realized Krishna. A pure devotee has realized Krishna. Right? So he is a carrier, means he is a personified temple of Krishna. Wherever he goes, he carries Krishna with him. There's a nice statement in the Bhagavata, it is actually confirming this aspect. They are the personification of Krishna's presence in their heart. They carry, wherever they go, they carry Krishna. Just like Prabhupada went to the Western countries. He purified those places, wherever he went. All those places have become holy places now. Wherever Prabhupada went and he established temples. Because pure devotees' presence is like that. Wherever Krishna is there, that becomes a holy place. Similarly, wherever pure devotees go, because they are carrying Krishna in their heart, that becomes a holy place. If he is sent to hell, he will be satisfied simply chanting Hare Krishna. In fact, he does not believe in hell, but in Krishna. So, for a pure devotee, he doesn't bother about any material conditions. Wherever he is sent, he is just happy spreading Krishna's message. That's what he wants to do. In fact, a pure devotee is not aspiring also, I want to go to heaven or I want to go to hell. His only aspiration is what? His only aspiration is wherever I'm going to be born next life. He doesn't even want liberation. Where I'm going to be born next life, please see that I'll be born in the home of a devotee. House of a devotee, or I have association of devotees always. That is what a devotee is always hankering for. He doesn't want any material benefits. Similarly, if he were put in heaven, where there are so many opportunities for sense gratification, we would also remain aloof, for his senses are satisfied by Krishna himself. Right? So basically, any material condition a devotee is put, he is only happy with his practicing devotion to Krishna. He is not worried where he is put. Material conditions don't bother. In this regard, we have a very wonderful example of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was actually gone through a lot of situations wherein he was beaten in 22 marketplaces, right? Because he was born in a different religion, Mohammedan religion, and he had accepted chanting Hare Krishna. The other community was very angry, and he was punished in that way. But nevertheless, Haridas Thakur didn't give up his chanting. So for a devotee, any condition, just like the Prahlad example, he was put into so many tribulations, but he always remembered Krishna, whichever situation he was. And that actually saved him and helped him to cross all the difficulties. That's the point. Thus, for the service of the Lord, a devotee is prepared to go anywhere, and for this reason, he is very dear to Krishna. So, why devotee is very dear to Krishna? Because a devotee is taking up the mission of Krishna, and for this reason, he is not bothered about his personal comforts. He can go to hell, heaven, or the most worst situation. He hardly, for him, his personal comfort is not the criteria. For him, Krishna's service is more important. That's why he is very dear to Krishna. So, Krishna wants us to develop this qualification. Then you become qualified to go back to Krishna. Otherwise, if you don't develop this qualification, then you will not become dear to Krishna. It's basically that mood, attitude, how somebody wants to sacrifice everything for Krishna. And I'm happy. I don't bother where I have to go for Krishna's service. Let Krishna send me anywhere. So this mood is required. A life of complete surrender and dedication is required. That's what Prabhupada is trying to explain to us. Next, we will, with this last point, we'll try to close the session today. A comparison between an impersonalist and a pure devotee. Right? Who is an impersonalist? Who considers that ultimately God is nirakara or impersonal. But the pure devotee, his conviction is that ultimately God is a person. That's what Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita. So what does, you should understand this difference very clearly. Prabhupada explains. Renounced impersonal philosophy says that this world is false and the impersonal Brahman is truth. There's a class of philosophers called Mayavadis. They say, Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. Brahman, Supreme Lord, is Supreme Truth. Absolute truth is actually it's fact. And this world is false, they say. But this is not the fact. Because this world is created by Krishna. So this is also fact. Just that it is temporary, not that it is permanent. But if they are asked to go out into society where material sense gratification predominates, they will refuse for fear of being affected by those conditions. We're discussing this difference between Brahma Satya, the impersonalists, and the personalists or the pure devotees, in the context that the pure devotees are ready to go anywhere for service of Krishna, whereas the impersonalists are only concerned about their personal spiritual progress. So they will not be ready to go anywhere for service of spreading the message of the absolute truth. They're only concerned about their own personal progress, spiritual progress. They're afraid that, if I go to any other place, I will be influenced by that place and I will not be able to practice my spiritual discipline. That's what their fear is. So this is one important difference. For Krishna conscious person, however, there is no such difficulty. Right? A devotee is not bothered wherever it is. Like Prabhupada went to a place which was most prominent with sense gratification. So much rampant sense gratification was happening. That is where Prabhupada started his movement. Because he is controlled and has taken shelter of Krishna, he is not afraid of going. This is the important qualification of a devotee, that he is completely dependent on Krishna and is fully having that understanding that I had to only serve Krishna. This is what is making this devotee that he is not afraid of going anywhere. And further, consecutively, when devotees meet in a place where there is no Krishna consciousness, there is no harm, for they take the opportunity to chant Hare Krishna and infuse the place with Krishna consciousness. Right? So Prabhupada, he went to so many different places all over the world, traveled across the globe 14 times. Wherever he went, what did he do? He was just chanting Hare Krishna and spreading this Krishna consciousness. A place which was the most abominable, that also got transformed into a purified place. Because Prabhupada was only giving the holy name and trying to spread the message of Lord Krishna. And this is what a pure devotee does. A pure devotee purifies the entire world by going different places. Rather, the impersonalist is afraid of his own personal spiritual progress. This opportunity should always be taken. Prabhupada says how the personalist or the pure devotee acts. It's not that one should close himself up in a room and chant alone. Prabhupada, based on the order of his guru, spiritual master, he went all over the world and spread the chanting of Hare Krishna. Now, anybody knows about Hare Krishna across the world is only because of Prabhupada's endeavor. That point we have to always appreciate. Sage, for example, we have one more wonderful example in the history. The great sage Narada is a spaceman who travels all over the universe. Although he can dwell in the most elevated planets, he sometimes goes to hell and preaches there. Right? So Narada Muni also is doing the same thing. He's going all over the creation of the Lord. Although he is such an elevated devotee, he can always stay in the upper planets and other in the spiritual world also. But he goes everywhere and preaches. Prahlad Maharaj, who was actually born in a demon family, he was a disciple of Narada Muni. Dhruva Maharaj was a disciple of Narada Muni. Like this, there are so many entities, so many personalities in the history. But Narada Muni was the spiritual master for them. So Narada Muni is doing the same duty of preaching everywhere. So this is the beauty of a servant of God. He's always acting out of love for Krishna and his parts and parcels. Exactly is what Prabhupada did. Prabhupada, when he went to America, what did he do? He just went there, and in the midst of so many young boys and girls, he was chanting Hare Krishna. And he was trying to spread the message of love for Krishna, because everybody, a pure devotee, sees them as part and parcel of Krishna. This is the vision of a pure devotee. A pure devotee doesn't see a body. Actually, a pure devotee says the soul within the body. And this is the vision of a pure devotee. He sees this living entity, the spirit soul, is embodied in a particular body now. It has to be released from this entanglement. So how to release it from the entanglement? If they can take up chanting of Hare Krishna and practice devotional service, and if they become self-realized, they can be relieved. So this is the duty of a pure devotee, the mission of a pure devotee. The important difference between impersonalist and a pure devotee is that a pure devotee is not worried about his personal comforts. He is ready to go anywhere in the whole creation, provided it is the order of his authorities, and he wants to just preach the message of Krishna. Whereas impersonalist is worried about his personal spiritual progress. So he's very, very, very choosy with regard to going to different places. He thinks that I'll be influenced with the people who are having a sense gratification in their lives. So with this, I will conclude today's session. If anybody has anything to ask and discuss, we can take up a few questions. Any questions online? I'll let me know. Post. Okay. Looks like there are no questions. So we have last few points left over in this particular topic which we're discussing. So next week we're going to complete this, and with this we will complete the complete book, Science of Self-Realization. Thank you everybody for being part of the session. Again, apologetic for the in between disturbances which were created, and now it is under control. So we will continue our discussion next week, and